Hey everyone, this is Georgia and I'm back today with what I'm going to do today is try cutting different metal dies with the Todo. I did do a video last night but my camera switched off, so you live and learn. So what we're going to start with, I'm going to try to recreate as best as possible as I did last night. And the Todo is a new machine. It comes from England and it promises to hot foil, emboss, stamp, letterpress, and hot foil. And I think there's a couple other things, but that's all that's on my head right now. So first thing I'm going to try are two small thinlit dies. And it says to put your A plate down first, then your dies. And according to the instruction book, for the thin metal dies, you have a setting of 6 to 8. I put my A plate down, then my dies, then my paper, and then I'm going to put my B plate on. And we're going to start this, since it says 6 to 8, we're going to start it at 7 today. We're going to start right in the middle of where they say to go. So let's try that. And that's not going to work because it's pushing the dies, so that's too low. So we're going to go up to 8. And I'm going to hold this because I don't want them to slide too much. That one, they're still pushing the plate, so we're going to roll that back and we're going to go up to 9 with this. I like going a full step in between, at least just to see. Now on that one, it's still pushing the dies, but it's going this time. It's a little snug, but it seems to be doing okay. I might try 9.5, but let's see how it cut at 9. And this is with the actually wonderful cuts with the thinlit dies. This one's a little more delicate, so I have to be careful with it. So that was a setting at 9. It's a little tight, but as you can see, they cut perfectly. We're going to try that one again, the same dies. And I'm going to move it up to 9.5 and see if that's a little better with the pressure on it. So once again, we're going to put the dies down, put on the paper, and I'll save these die cuts for when we try foiling. Put it back on. We're going to move it up to 9.5. Just go a half a mark this time. There we go. And I'm going to hold it down just till it starts going over the plates. Plates are still shifting a little bit, but not real bad. I just want to see if it cuts at 9.5 as well as it did at 9. Okay, so we'll take off our B plate. Pull that off. Yep, beautiful cut at 9, so, or 9.5. So I'm going to use 9.5 for my thinlit dies. Both cut perfectly. So we're going to hang on to those for when we try foiling. Next, I'm going to use a spellbinders die, which is a little more intricate. And for, again, thin metal dies, it said 6 to 8, but since it didn't work, it was too tight for the little dies, we're going to just try it at 9.5 and see what happens there. Because if one works at 9.5, maybe we'll get lucky, and this one will too. So I'm going to hold the plates again just to try to keep them in place a little better. They're still shifting, but let's see how it cuts at 9.5. It's a little bit tighter than the thinlit dies. That one, it did not quite cut through at 9.5. It started to. Now what it did do, it made a nice embossing on the paper. It didn't cut through, but it's a nice emboss. So let's try again. And this time we're going to take it down. We're going to go down to 8.5 with this one. We'll see what happens at 8.5. So I know it's going to push the plates, because if it pushed it at 9.5, it's going to push it 8.5. A little bit snugger there. Oop. Seems like 8.5 is too tight. But we'll see how that one cut. If it cut well, it may be well worth doing it at 8.5 and just deal with the little tightness. This one looks like it did cut. It's just getting it out of my die, because this is a very intricate die. But it still did not cut all the way through on that one. So that was at 8.5. So I would probably, I'm going to leave that on there, just see if we can cut through that last little bit. I'm going to put it down to 8 and see what happens. I know it's going to be tight because 8.5 was tight, but we're just going to try it and see what happens. And then I'm going to roll it back over too, maybe give it a couple times. Now that looks like it cut it better. Yep, so even though it's tight, I would probably do my spellbinders at 8 also. Because at that time it cut it really nice. Now if I can get it, there we go, and you have a nice snowflake, and we'll save that for foiling too when we try foiling. Okay, the next die we're going to try a bigz die from sizzix. And it says to take your base out, which you just pull up and out. And it says for the thick foam top dies, you use your A and B plate. So I guess we put our A plate down in the base. And I'm using the sizzix flourish, corner flourish die. And I'm going to kind of put it over to the side, just because I want to see if it gets pressure to that side as well as the middle. And then put down my B plate. And for these it says 3 to 5. So I'm going to go down to 4 because I start in the middle. Or that's where I think is a good starting point. And I'm going to hold this down. And that's pushing the dice. So 4 is too low on mine. So we're going to go up to 5. Actually 5.5. Pushing it once again. So we are going to go clear up. We're going to go to 7, and let's try 7. Okay, 7.5 is where it went in. Okay, that it's rolling over. It's just, will it cut it? We're at 7.5. It's real easy turning it on this one. But at first glance, we'll see. This is at 7.5. Let's see if it cut all the way through. No, not even a mark. So we're going to put that back down there. We're going to go down to 6.5. And I might try shifting this just to the center part to where we can kind of rock the plates back and forth so they don't flip-flop one way or the other. This is at 6.5. It feels a little better, but I'm still not sure it's cutting on this one. And no cut there either. So we are going back down. We're going to try 5. It said 3 to 5, so let's try 5 again. But I think I tried that. But maybe I just had my plates in a little bit too close. Okay, 5 seems to be going across just fine. It's sliding, but I think that's okay. Let's just see if it cuts. plates rock a little bit. I don't think it cut through again. Let's go down to 4.5. It's like it started to cut on that setting, but it didn't quite cut through. Now that feels a little tighter. Okay, at 4.5, I'm going to kind of pull this over here. It's kind of messed up because I ran it through a couple times. So you know what? We're going to toss that one. And we're going to try cutting one more at 4.5 and just see what happens. And I'm going to actually scoot it. We're going to keep it at 4.5. I would just suggest putting your hand down on the plates because it kind of does a seesaw action. And I'm not sure you really want that to happen. Okay, now let's look at this one at 4.5. At 4.5, I think it did really well. Just got to pop all the little pieces out, which I'll do that later. But actually, at 4.5, as you can see, it did really good. So I think for my sizzix dies, I'd try 4.5 to start and then go from there. Okay, the last die I'm going to try is actually a Fiskars metal die. And these dies also have an embossing plate in it, which I'm not crazy about because I've never been able to get them to really emboss well anyways. But once again, we're going to leave the A plate in. I'm going to put that die down. And since 4.5 worked for the sizzix die, this is a little bit thicker, but we're just going to try it and see if it'll go with this one. And no, it's pushing it. That's kind of what I thought. So we're going to go to 5.5. At 5.5, it's pushing it also. So let's go to 6. That's still too tight on 6, so we're going to go to 6.5. I'm only doing half increments on this one because I just think it might be better to go half at a time. This one is at 6.5, still too tight. Okay, let's try 7. Seven is still really, really, really tight. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump up to 8 because it seems to not be going at half increments. And let's see what 8 does for us. Still tight rolling, but actually not too bad. I think this one might be cutting. And again, this is a Fiskars metal die. So let's see how it did. Actually, my end, I think it's just because the plates aren't on it real good, didn't cut. But other than that, I think it cut really well. But I'm wondering, since the plate doesn't quite fit this, let's try one more cut with this one. Let me just get a piece of paper here real quick. And I'm using all cardstock because that's mainly what I use for cuts is cardstock. And I think I'm going to try, we're just going to see what happens without putting the A plate under. Wonder what would happen if we just put the B plate on. Which means we're probably going to have to crank this back down. Let's try 7. I like experimenting. I'm not one to really follow the rules a lot on some things. 7, it's too loose. So let's crank this one down to 6. The plate doesn't shift as much when you do it this way. still a little loose. I'm not sure this is going to work because they do say to put the A plate under, but we're going to try this one at 5. Still nothing. Okay, they said let's go on down to 3. I'm really taking a big jump now. I think what is happening is the die is too low. But let's check it out anyway, see what happens. If not, I might even crank it down to 1 just to see. Okay, nothing there. Let's crank it all the way down to 1. Actually, how about 0? Wonder what you'd get at 0. It feels a little tighter, but it still doesn't feel like it's cutting. Which means you have to have the A plate underneath. Okay, so let's stick the A plate back underneath there. Put this back in. And let's try this one more time with, oh, now I don't remember what setting we had it at, so we are going to 7.5. Which I think was too low, but yep, 7.5 was too low. Or maybe it's just I gotta rock my plates in. There we go. Yep, there we go. At 8.5, that will cut a fiskars die. So probably on all my, I have other fiskars dies too, smaller ones. So probably on those, I probably start at 8.5 and just see what I got. Now the